One with wheels.
We'll call the Willmar City Council meeting to order for Monday, March 16th. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Here.
Meske. Schwantes.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Alvarado.
Here.
Osmus.
Here.
Plowman.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda as presented?
Make a motion.
I have 2 changes to the agenda. After the consent items are approved, including the ones that are removed, I will be doing a mayor's state of the city address, updating on the coronavirus. Said that wrong. On the coronavirus, and then we'll also be declaring a local emergency, and our city attorney, Robert Scott, will be addressing that issue. With those 2 added items, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So move.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion does carry. Next, we have consent items. City Clerk Thompson.
On tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval the city council minutes of March 2nd, Willmar Municipal Utilities Board minutes of March 9th, an application for exempt permit from the United Way of West Central Minnesota, and an application for exempt permit for West Central Ducks Unlimited, the accounts payable report for February 27 through March 11, council's acceptance, a building report for the month of February, and council's information, Invest in Willmar Board minutes of December 11th, 2019, and an application for appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals for Joshua Monson.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent items. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion does carry. Next, we'll have the State of the City address. Good evening, citizens of Willmar. This evening, I will be giving a State of the City address and what we have done as a city to prepare and what we plan on doing moving forward with the COVID-19 pandemic here in Willmar, Minnesota. We live in a great community and we help each other in times like this. I ask you to please reach out to a family or a senior citizen that lives near you and see if they need help. Can you spare some food to give to them? Provide a cooked meal to those that may need a hand up, not a hand out. Together, we as a community can do this and we can make a positive impact in our community. First and foremost, please follow these 4 simple rules in your day-to-day activities. Number 1, and the most important, if you're sick, stay home. We heard it from the governor, we've heard it from the President of the United States, and you're hearing it from us here locally. We need you to stay home if you're ill. We do know that people can be contagious with this virus, but if you're ill, please stay home. Cover your cough and wash your hands frequently. I was encouraged when I was at an event last week for the mayors of Minnesota that a number of people after every break went into the bathroom and we were standing in line waiting to wash our hands. So that's a good thing to have. That's a good problem to have. So please wash your hands. Social distancing, we heard that loud and clear tonight if you watched the governor at 6:30. We started with groups of 500, then we went to 250, and today the governor went to groups of 10 people. Now, if you have families like mine with a good German background and of the Catholic faith, you can still get together as a family. You don't have to separate from your family. So groups of 10 or less. Social distancing. Stay home as much as you can and then keep 6 feet of space between others. You will notice that as a council that we have adhered to that rule this evening. Our council members are spread out. And so we have our social distancing here at the council chambers. Additionally, I have asked our staff to consider the following, and they are working on these procedures. The city administrator and I met this afternoon at 2 o'clock, and these processes are all in place. We are working to develop a work-from-home policy for our staff. We will be limiting out-of-state travel for all of our employees. We are requesting employees to self-quarantine if they travel outside of the United States to an area identified by the CDC as a high-risk country. We're requesting that our citizens, if you have city business, to not enter city business if you have traveled outside of the United States into a high-risk country as identified by the CDC within the past 12 days. We are working on developing our 2-deep management plan for all city positions, and the city administrator is working diligently. They have a meeting tomorrow morning to continue that process. I am requesting that the council consider delaying all meetings for at least 14 days and consider canceling any meetings that are not critical to essential city functions. This would include the work session on March 30th. As has been shared by our staff at the community center, our community center buildings will be closed for the time being. We will evaluate when it is best to reopen this building. And if you have needs for meals or other services that were happening there, please call City Hall at 235-4913 or follow the information that you were given by staff when you attend an event at the community center. Our staff is willing and eager to help you and assist you in any way possible. We want to help you for the needs that you have. At this time, access to our city buildings is being limited, and we ask that if you have a need for city services that you call ahead and set an appointment. Again, let me repeat the number, area code 320-235-4913. As always, if you have a police, fire, or ambulance emergency, dial 911, and staff there are ready to serve you at this time. If that changes, we will give you an update. This pandemic has been well planned for over years with our emergency management staff, and they are now implementing our plan that has been thoughtfully developed. Please stay tuned to local media outlets for updates and follow the recommendations as they may be updated. As the governor said today, we are not changing what we're doing. It's just that we have new information and we're updating the information. So if you hear something tonight from the mayor's office and it changes, it's because we have new information and we're updating that. My wife Jen and I are choosing to self-distance ourselves from others, and I'm asking that you and your family do the same. It's not in our Minnesota DNA, but it will take all of us to halt and spread the curve of this pandemic and flatten the curve. That is our goal. My wife and I are doing that, and I respectfully request you do the same. Take this time to plan family projects to keep everyone busy, or enjoy a walk in one of our local parks, or take a trip up to Sibley State Park to explore all the hiking and activities they have to offer. Fresh air works wonders to tire out the young ones and helps us all sleep better at night. I remind us all to support others on our block, and those that need a hand up, please be the one that offers that support. I know there are community groups gathering on how they can better do this and how they can coordinate this on a citywide basis. And as that information becomes available, that will be shared with you. I'm extremely proud to live here in Willmar and know that together we can flatten the curve and contain COVID-19. Again, let me reemphasize, stay home if you're sick, cover your cough, wash your hands, and use social distancing. May God bless and protect us in the coming days and weeks ahead. Marv Kelvin, your mayor. Thank you. Next, we will have a local emergency declaration that will be presented to us, a resolution for the council to consider by our city attorney, Robert Scott. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Under Minnesota statutes, the mayor has the authority in times of emergency to declare what's called a local emergency within the city of Willmar. That declaration is good for a maximum of 3 days unless the city council considers the declaration and decides to extend it for a longer period. In conferring with the city administrator and the mayor before this meeting, in light of the rapidly evolving situation with the virus, we decided to present this in essentially one action. You have, I know in the mayor's packet, and just before this meeting, I did email a draft to all council members of a resolution declaring a local emergency. And the resolution really contains 2 action items. One is the mayor's declaration of the emergency and the city council's consent to the declaration and consent to the declaration in the state of emergency lasting longer than 3 days. Since this is obviously a evolving situation and the resolution was only prepared shortly before this meeting, I want to make sure that I walk through it so the council understands what the resolution does. The beginning of the resolution are the recitals where it just goes through the need and the grounds for declaring a local emergency. Briefly, without reading verbatim, it references the fact that Willmar, like the rest of the state, the nation, and the world, is dealing with the novel coronavirus disease of 2019, commonly referred to as the COVID-19 disease, which is spreading serious injury, death globally, and has been identified by the World Health Organization as a pandemic. It references the fact that on March 13th, 2020, President Donald Trump declared that the COVID-19 outbreak in the United States constitutes a national emergency. It references the fact that, as we're all aware, this disease has been confirmed to exist and be spreading within the state of Minnesota. It references the governor's action on March 13th, 2020, just last Friday, to declare a peacetime state of emergency, which authorized any and all necessary resources be used to support the response to the COVID-19 outbreak. The resolution references the statutory authority for this action, which is Minnesota Statute Section 12.29, which, as I mentioned, authorizes the mayor to declare a local state of emergency and further requires the city council to consent and approve that declaration for it to remain in effect longer than 3 days. The resolution references the fact that the United States Center for Disease Control and the Minnesota Department of Health have advised that aggressive community mitigation strategies are necessary to slow the transmission of this disease and to reduce the resulting illness, deaths, and limit the economic impacts of this outbreak. The resolution references that the pandemic is an unforeseen event, present, sudden, and unexpected situation, which requires immediate action be taken and to prevent damage to the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the city of Willmar. It also references the fact that the necessary resources to respond to and recover from this pandemic are likely to exceed those resources available to the city, and observes that there may be additional resources needed at some point from the county, state, and federal governments. Those are the recitals, and then the operative portion of the resolution contains 7 provisions. The first is the mayor's declaration of the local emergency. I think under the statutory framework, normally the mayor would act. It just so happens that we had a council meeting the same day the mayor would have taken that action, so we're doing this all in one document. So the first paragraph is the mayor's declaration of the local emergency. The second paragraph then is the city council saying that by adopting this resolution, it agrees with the mayor's declaration of the local emergency and hereby extends such state of local emergency until such time as this resolution is rescinded by the city council. The third operative paragraph of the resolution states that the mayor and city council hereby direct city staff to review city ordinances, regulatory requirements, operations, practices, events, and resources to determine whether the foregoing should be adjusted or suspended, and to make recommendations regarding additional emergency regulations to support the employees and residents of the city of Willmar. Essentially, that's just a recognition of how fast events are transpiring and how flexible city government needs to be to develop responses on a timely basis, and a recognition of the fact that there may be emergency measures the city council needs to enact to respond to the evolving situation. The fourth paragraph, the fourth operative paragraph of the resolution states that the mayor and city council direct city staff to operate and support the response to this incident under the direction and coordination of the city administrator, which would include implementing new employee protocols, strategy, and processes to ensure that the public services are maintained while best protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the public and the city's employees. Again, I think this is a recognition of the fact that these are unusual times demanding flexibility and unusual temporary measures, both in terms of how the city functions internally and in operating public-facing facilities, including measures such as limiting access to public facilities, which would ordinarily not be considered but may be necessary for the greater good in this time. The fifth operative paragraph in the resolution states that the mayor and city council hereby directs the city's city administrator and other appropriate city staff to request and coordinate appropriate aid and resources from surrounding jurisdictions, including the county, state, and federal government as needed. That is obviously, we're at the beginning, I think, of this response, and that simply frees up city staff to seek outside resources if and when they become necessary. The sixth operative paragraph in the resolution addresses the need to conduct meetings by other means than in person. Even as I was driving out here today, the guidance from federal and state governments on the size of meetings that we should be conducting has already changed, and now I think we're at the recommendation is not to meet in groups larger than 10 people in person. So this paragraph reads, the mayor and city council hereby declares under Minnesota statute 13D.021 that in-person meetings of the city council and its subcommittees, the planning commission, and other advisory boards and commissions of the city are not practical or prudent due to the COVID-19 health pandemic and the peacetime emergency declared by Governor Walz. And hereby directs that meetings of the city council and the aforementioned subcommittees, boards, and commissions shall be conducted by telephone or other electronic means, and hereby directs city staff to take such action as may be necessary to enable such meetings to occur via telephone or other electronic means. This order, this provision in the resolution is consistent with an exception to the open meeting law that applies in times of emergency, particularly health pandemics as we are experiencing now. That statute is Minnesota statute section 13D.021. Meetings may be conducted by telephone. They would not take place in the regular meeting room where we are now. There would be public notice of the means by which the meeting would be conducted, whether it's by a teleconference or some other electronic means. I think those details will be worked out by staff certainly before the next regular council meeting. And notice given to the public of those arrangements. And then seventh, and finally, the last clause, last operative paragraph in the resolution states that the mayor and city council hereby order that this declaration be given prompt and general publicity and that it be filed promptly with the city clerk. That's the summary of the contents of the resolution before you regarding the declaration of a local emergency. I will just, I guess, give a bit of explanation on top of that, which is that many cities today or in the days coming this week when they have their regular meetings, I think will be considering similar resolutions. Not all of them. I think there is a school of thought that cities probably have adequate authority just based on the emergency that the governor declared on behalf of the whole state. But I think what this is a strong measure that the city council would take to communicate the importance of the situation to residents of the city of Willmar and to its organization. It does, I think, clarify and perhaps add legal standing to some of these unconventional and unusual measures city staff are going to have to take to respond to the current situations, and the fact that these responses are likely to be required before staff can bring them to the council for consideration and approval. And I think it's also an endorsement and show of support for actions city staff has already taken, which the mayor has summarized. So for those reasons, I would stand for any questions and ultimately recommend that the city council approve this resolution.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve the resolution declaring a local emergency.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussions. Let me just make a comment before we go to discussions. We don't take these matters lightly. Again, like I stated in my State of the City, our emergency planning folks have been working on something like this for years. I was talking with my wife this morning. I worked over 30 years in emergency services, and we started talking about this back when I first started. I had a total of 40 years, but 30 years in management. And so these plans are not something that are not thought out, are not well planned. The city administrator and I talked today about some different ideas questions that our city staff has had placed in front of them that they've had to make decisions on already. This just gives them that authority to make those decisions. And some of the decisions are very simple, such as, can somebody exceed their vacation balance? Can somebody track this expense? Can somebody do something differently? And this gives our staff the ability to work. And the thing I ask the administrator is if there's anything that you're doing under that emergency order, that you communicate that as quickly and as efficiently as you can to the council, so the council's aware that you're making those decisions. We don't want things being done in a vacuum, but yet we don't want to hold the city staff back from making good, prudent decisions. And so I would just offer that as an opening comment. And now our city attorney will stand for questions. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Scott, it's 3 days. Would you have a recommendation for an extension on that?
It's actually, the mayor has the authority to do 3 days. This would put it in effect because you're meeting as a council.
Okay.
So there's not a limit on the time.
Okay, I misunderstood that. Thank you.
Additional questions? Councilmember Schwantes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just say that I think this is a really important step for us to take. It just says to the residents of our community that we respect them, we appreciate them, we want to help keep them safe, and we hope that they will do the same for their neighbors in respecting the items that have been recommended through the public health. We are all in this together, and if there is a time to show leadership, this would be it.
Additional comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Thank you, City Attorney Scott and City Administrator Gramitz for working on this project. It's a big undertaking, and thank you for your leadership. Appreciate that. Next, we have Public Works Safety Committee report. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Public Works and Safety Committee met Wednesday, March 4th at the City Office Building at 5:15. Members present were myself, Councilmember Osmus, Councilmember Alvarado, Councilmember Nelson. Others present were our City Administrator, Mr. Gramitz, our Public Works Director, Mr. Christensen, our Police Chief, Mr. Feld, and our Administrative Assistant, Ms. Del Bosque, and I also believe our Park and Rec Director, Mr. Baumgarten. We called the meeting to order at right around 5:21, and the first item that we discussed was a public safety update where we were presented statistics for the police, and those statistics are included in your packet. So our chief is here tonight if you have any questions regarding any items on this list. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and we will move on to our next item, which was a West Central Hockey Summer Ice Agreement, and this resulted in a resolution. The city of Willmar has not had summer ice at the Willmar Civic Center for 9 years, since 2011. With recent upgrades to the refrigeration and HVAC systems in the Blue Line Arena, this allows the city of Willmar to potentially increase summer ice programs to various users in the community. Staff sent out RFPs to all the local users, and two proposals came back. Staff reviewed the proposals, and it is the recommendation of staff and the Park and Recreation Board to enter into the agreement with West Central Hockey. The Park and Rec Board met on February 19th to discuss the recommendation as well, and that agreement would be for 1 year, and that did come to our committee with a recommendation from the Park and Rec Board. The specific details, West Central Hockey would be responsible for all of the cost of the utilities, estimated at $8,000 per month, resulting in a $24,000 agreement covering the summer. That would cover, again, utilities and part-time staffing that would occur in those months, June, July, and August. The total agreement is estimated in the amount of $31,000 even, and I will enter the motion to enter into agreement with West Central Hockey for the summer ice program now.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve an agreement with West Central Hockey for summer ice. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes. Councilman Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next item for discussion was regarding the downtown street and sidewalk lights. The current 208 downtown street sidewalk light fixtures were installed in the early 1980s. When the downtown master plan was approved and adopted in 2012, replacing downtown lights was determined a long-term necessary objective, as lighting contributes to the perception of safety and the aesthetic quality of a downtown. At this point in time, the lighting infrastructure is obsolete. In addition, the existing bases and poles are beginning to rust. The concrete is cracked beyond repair. Willmar Main Street, city staff, and municipal utilities have discussed the replacement of the lighting system with updated concrete, bases and poles, and LED lights at great length. These meetings have taken place over a long period of time. The recommended poles would include an electrical outlet and be compatible with several accessories such as banner arms, holiday decoration, brackets, that could also be purchased at any given time. They are modular. To continue to move forward with this replacement project, Willmar Municipal Utilities has requested an update to the agreement for the installation and maintenance of streetlights. The Utility Commission has reviewed and approved the proposed agreement. And as stated in this updated agreement, which is also attached to the packet, Willmar Municipal Utilities is responsible for maintenance and replacement costs of standard fixtures, which has been determined to be about $300,000 for the entirety of the project. Additional costs would be the city's responsibility, and any additional costs or additional actions beyond this will come through the Public Works Public Safety Committee first, and then come to the council before being acted on. So with that said, I will enter the motion amending and restating the agreement for the installation and maintenance of streetlights now.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve a street lighting agreement with municipal utilities. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Councilman Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next item, number 5, was actually regarding a Public Works garage, an HVAC system, and for reasons that it needs to be discussed in further detail, that item was tabled for a future date, so we will be returning that item back to the council in the future. The next item following that was regarding the motorcycle lease agreement amendment, and that resulted in a resolution. A little bit of background, the city first had received a request in 2005 from the state to enter into a lease agreement allowing the Department of Public Safety to use an area of land on the north end of Transportation Drive for the term of 5 years for the testing of motorcycle license applicants. In 2010, the lease was amended, and again in 2015, to allow for use of right-of-way. The current amendment to the lease replaces the terms to commencing May 1st, 2020, and continue through April 30th, 2025. And I will enter that as a motion now.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve a resolution for a motorcycle lease with the state of Minnesota. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item was regarding the Willmar Baseball Association advertisement agreement. The Willmar Baseball Boosters are requesting to put advertising signage on the fences at green and blue and the entrance of orange fields. In the past, the boosters were granted permission to put signage on the entrance of orange. The proceeds of the advertising sales would go back into the baseball, softball programs and facilities. Members of the boosters presented their request to the Park and Rec Board on February 19th, and it was their recommendation to our committee first, and then also to the council to approve the agreement for a period of 1 year, beginning April 1st and concluding September 30th of 2020. In the agreement, the boosters are responsible for all advertising costs, installation, removal, any repairs or upkeep to that signage. We discussed it at length, and the decision was made to go ahead and pass that along as recommended to the council, and I will enter that as a motion now.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve a resolution for Willmar Baseball Association for advertising at various city parks. City ball diamonds. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our final item on the agenda for that meeting was the Invest in Willmar surveying agreement, Invest in Willmar projects, rather, surveying agreements. The architects for the Recreation and Event Center and also the Swanson Field Complex have requested surveys for the project areas. The Recreation Event Center proposal consists of the boundary preparation, location, topographic, and utility surveys of the site. The low proposal came from Sunday Land Surveying in the amount of $23,075. And I am going to enter for the motion accepting that bid in the amount of $23,075 now.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve surveying for the Recreation and Event Center. Discussion. Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did any local surveyors put a bid in?
I do believe so. I would defer to our Park and Rec Director for further information on that.
Mr. Baumgartner.
Mayor, member of the councils, yes, another group did send it in. They had two different rates. They had a winter rate and a spring rate, but the Sunday project was the lowest one that we had, and also they've been working on it. It was the same group that worked with the high school, so they had some of the work already completed.
Okay, so that they work with the architects too for these?
Yes, sir.
projects? So, okay. Thank you.
Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The final resolution we're looking for then addresses the Swanson Field project. The Swanson Field recreational proposal was to complete a topographic and boundary survey. Only one quote was received, and that quote was from Bolton and Mink, and it was in the amount of $19,400. And I will make the motion to go ahead and accept that bid and award it to Bolton and Mink in the amount of $19,400.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve surveying for Swanson Field. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There being no more business to come before our committee, we adjourned at 6:29, and I would move to file the minutes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to file the minutes. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion does carry. Next, we have Finance Committee report for March 5th. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. The Finance Committee did meet on March 5th at the City Office Building. Present were Councilmembers Nelson, Fagerly, Plowman, and Osmus. In addition, City Administrator Gromitz and Finance Director Steve Okens. We did call the meeting to order at 5:15, and we had an addition to the agenda to adding the purchase of the maintenance truck to that. The first item that we had was a discussion item regarding the city purchasing policy. And City Administrator Gromitz reported that after reviewing the city's current purchasing policy, he's recommending several amendments to create a more concise flow of information that incorporates the state purchasing statute requirements as well as the council's directives. The proposed amended policy was distributed to the committee members and reviewed. Councilmember Nelson requested that the local vendor be defined as within Candioi County. Subsequently, the purchasing policy would state under scope purchasing or competitive bidding and local vendor, Candioi County, if local vendor is within 1% or $1,000 of the lowest bid obtained, whichever is lower. Under exceptions, it was noted that the vendor selection will be changed to vendor recommendation as follows. It is the responsibility of the department head to document the rationale for the vendor recommendation, particularly when the lowest bid is not accepted or if the bid is only received and obtained from one vendor. The purchasing policy was received for information and we will be reviewed again at a future meeting. Action item that we had for the evening was the purchase of the maintenance truck. Staff is in the process of proceeding with the replacement of a 2006 GMC pickup unit and in accordance with the 2020 capital outlay program. Council approval is being requested to replace the unit with a 2020 Silverado 1500 from Schwieters of Willmar for $35,927.50. This pickup would be delivered to our facility and the purchase would stay local. Option B would be to purchase the truck from Saxton Fleet Services of New Brighton, Minnesota through the state contract pricing for $35,680.70 with the requirement that staff picks it up from New Brighton. Also, as part of this replacement, a topper and toolboxes would be purchased from Accessories for Trucks in Willmar for $4,953.62. Additionally, it was noted that the 2006 pickup will be sold on the city auction after delivery of the new unit. It was moved and seconded and passed to recommend the resolution to approve the purchase of the 2020 Silverado 1500 pickup from Schwieters of Willmar for $35,927.50, plus the purchase of the topper and toolboxes from the Accessories for Trucks of Willmar for $4,953.62, and I would enter that motion now.
Before we get a second on that, Councilmember Nelson, would you like to entertain a motion to bring back the tabled item first? Because it was tabled by the council. So it's just a procedural issue.
Sure.
A motion by Councilmember Nelson to entertain a motion to bring back the tabled item of the Public Works maintenance truck. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor of that, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The motion does carry. Councilmember Nelson continue.
Okay, so I will enter that motion to purchase that vehicle.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to purchase a maintenance vehicle from, as outlined in the conversation with Councilmember Nelson. Discussion. Councilmember Plowman.
I'd just like to take the opportunity to note that I do think it was a good idea that we tabled this item, even though some that I talked to said, why would you spend time on such a small thing? But it's not a small thing. It's the concept, and it's the policies and procedures around it. And it also afforded us the opportunity to send it back, get it reviewed by staff, get staff's input, and I think that we did a great job at clearing it up, cleaning it up, and I guess I'll channel Council Member Meskey, who is not with us here tonight, but I think he would also applaud those efforts as well. I think that cleaning up policies and procedures will help us now and in the future, so I definitely think it was the right thing to do, and I appreciate the work from Councilwoman Nelson, as well as our city administrator on this item.
There's some discussion. I concur with everything you said. Motion has been made and seconded, and roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus, Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Councilmember Nelson.
We had a discussion about when we were going to meet next, and we had 3 weeks to kind of choose, and I think that's already changed since then. And so there was no other business to come before the committee, and so I would enter a motion to approve the minutes at this time.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to file the minutes as presented. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion does carry. Next, we have to entertain a motion to bring back a tabled item under personnel policy. City Administrator Gromitz.
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, this item was on the last agenda. It was tabled, I think due to some information that had not been presented at the meeting, so the council could make a decision at that point in time. Since that time, staff has presented that information to the city council that was creating the confusion, and I would entertain, or I would recommend that the motion continue. I think it needs to be also brought back off the table, and that we then create one personnel policy as intended from all of the individual ones that we have for our employees, so that we can simplify this whole process.
So the city administrator is requesting that we entertain a motion to pull the issue of updating the personnel policy off the table.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Plowman.
Just wondering, because our labor chair is not here, was he involved in any discussion, or is he aware of whatever procedures we're doing tonight?
I had sent out all the information to all the city council. Some did respond. I can't remember specifically if the chairman of labor responded, but it's my understanding, everyone's memory, as well as mine, I have to admit, didn't remember that this information had been presented to the city council, and that when it was brought up this time, it was like, where did this come from? And so the information had been sent out so that everybody could remind themselves where they, or when we had talked about this, and that it was really outside of our control. The unions were going to make that decision as to whether or not they accepted an individual into the collective bargaining unit. And since they didn't, then we will bring that individual personnel policy into the master one. So that's what this motion is all about, to simplify everything. So we just don't have 3, 4, 5 of these things sitting out there. We just have one personnel policy.
Understood, thank you.
Additional discussion. All in favor of taking it off of the table to discuss it, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, that motion does carry. City Administrator Gromitz, is there anything else you wish to add at this point?
Well, we would need to actually vote on it.
Correct,
but
yeah, before we
nothing
vote.
to add at this point.
So at this point, we would like to update the personnel policy for discontinue of individual policies to have one standard policy. I'd entertain a motion for that.
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and seconded. that we update the personnel policy and discontinue individual policies for individual employees. Discussion, Councilmember Nelson.
So does this include everyone now? I mean, does this include?
I believe it includes everybody now into the
Okay.
one
All right, thank you.
policy. Yep.
Additional discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion, those opposed, that motion does carry. Next, we have liquor license renewals. City Clerk Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, annually, we approve our liquor license applications, and they run from April 25th of 2020 to April 25th of 2021. And these would be pending police department approval. And before you, you have the list of the establishments that have made application to have their renewal take place, and staff's recommendation to approve as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve liquor license renewals pending law enforcement review. Discussion. This is liquor, and so it takes roll call, where normally it would be a motion, but all alcohol takes a roll call. So roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next, council member announcements. Councilmember Fagerly.
I have none.
Councilmember Davis.
I just want to say that the Light of the World display is to be taken down on March 21st at 10 o'clock. And I think that's one thing that won't be canceled. So if you can show up at 10 o'clock in the morning, you can help.
Okay, and again, that's an outdoor activity, so we have good fresh air, so, correct, so, great. Councilmember Osmus.
I would just like to ask everybody to be diligent with our practices in this coronavirus outbreak. And my heart goes out to the restaurant owners and the bar owners. And if there's the possibility that they line up to go orders that people can drive by and pick up, please keep them in mind and support our local businesses.
Councilmember Schwantes.
So I assume you're talking about food, not alcoholic beverages. Yes, just want to clarify. Let's beat the peak.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to forget about the census amongst this COVID-19. It's something that has to be done. I think there's numerous ways to complete it, so please do your best to complete that when the opportunity presents itself. I want to thank the mayor for empathizing with or stressing empathy for neighbors that might not be able to get out or are forgotten, to consider them as part of your world and keep them in mind. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that positive note. That's it. Thank you.
I'll just tag on to the Councilmember Alvarado just a bit. So you all should have received it in the mail on the 13th of March, your census information. I received mine last evening. I went online and it took me less than 7 minutes to complete the entire process. So online is the way to do it, and it can be done very quickly if you know who you're going to have living with you on the 1st. And I know with this pandemic, some of that might be changing a little bit, but again, once you hit the submit button, you're done. And so I have submitted mine, and so my wife and I will be living at our home on April 1st. So Councilmember Nelson.
I'll pass, thank you.
Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Without being too dramatic or taking too much time, I think our actions that we've taken tonight regarding the local emergency and regarding the mayor's state of the city, I think are warranted, and I think it's really important. I believe right now is a defining moment in our world, really. World leaders all the way down to local, the very basic local governmental leaders. And I think it's an opportunity. And I think in some instances, and some of the reasons that people are so worried and filled with fear is that we're afraid of the unknown. And some of what we're seeing in a world level and at a national level is a lot of politicking. And this is one area that I think we can really do it differently. We can get it different, and we can do it right. We can be an example to our community and those around us, how we can humanize this, depoliticize this, and we can do good and do right. And I guess the one thing that just came to mind last night when I was thinking about it and journaling some stuff down was just what I remembered hearing in the Mr. Rogers movie that most recently came out. And that was a story that I did look up, and it was a true story by Mr. Rogers, but he did say when he was a child and he was scared and there was different scary events going on in the world that he didn't quite understand and whatnot, he would tell his mom about that. His mom would see his fear, and she told him in the midst of everything that was going on and all that was happening, all the confusion and chaos, look for the helpers. There will always be those that are helping and looking to help and looking to do good. And this is one area that we can do good and do right by our fellow citizens. So I appreciate everybody's help in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. I will leave it up to the city administrator to communicate with the council as to next council committee meeting dates after he meets with his staff tomorrow morning. So they have a recommendation and look forward to that. And the proper notices will be given as to when those meetings will be held, where they will be held, and how they will be held. So for the announcement of committee meeting dates, I will hold that on the agenda. I also just want to report to the council that I will be on open mic tomorrow, along with emergency preparedness folks at 10:05. And I will give a brief overview of the council meeting, do a short introduction, and then they will take the majority of the show. Brian was not available to be there, and so this was set up last Tuesday that I would be there. And then additionally, then I will close out the open mic with just the comments that come from the council meeting. So if you hear an abbreviated part of the council, the reason for that is to give our emergency preparedness staff the time to do justice. We'll have people there from Caris Health, their infection control department. We'll have the emergency management director for Candioi County there. And then we'll also have some people from Candioi County Public Health. It has not yet been determined. One of two people will be there, but I'll be doing that. And then tomorrow at 2 o'clock, I will be doing a session with the local community, talking about how we respond to this. It'll be a Facebook live event, I believe, that will be shared across the community, both electronic and print media, and also hopefully through our RAC 8 programming. So I would encourage council to have a consistent message. The message is keep your distance. I can't stress that enough. The governor kept stressing it over and over and over again today. Keep your distancing. Social distancing is a big deal, folks. Wash your hands, cover your cough, and the all-important, if you're sick, stay home. And I know that our administrator is working diligently to make sure that our staff are kept safe. Some of the things that we put in place, Councilmember Davis and I were at the meeting on the League of Minnesota Cities, and the administrator was very concerned about the safety of our staff. And so the things that we have implemented in our city buildings are to keep our staff safe, but also to keep our community safe. So thank you for all the work that you do as a council and supporting the decisions that our city administrator makes. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn unless somebody else has a comment they wish to make.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made, second, we're adjourned.